And a very warm welcome to all of you joining us once again on a very beautiful but rather cool morning in Djuma in the Sabi Sands. It is 17 degrees Celsius, 71 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is a glorious day to start off with a female leopard. Welcome again. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined once again on camera by Senzo Mkize with the three-fingered magician. And we are out, and we've managed to find the small Xidulu female from yesterday. First thing you do in the morning is go check where you last had your cats, and from there, move on. So I'm out again this morning with Brent, who will be on bushwalk with Herbie, as well as Taylor, who's out on game drive and assisting in all sorts of wonderful activities this morning. Please feel free to send your questions through at hashtag Safari Live or follow us on the YouTube stream. Let's go back over to the beautiful and gorgeous Xidulu female. It's always marvelous being able to come out. Always wonderful being able to come out and just to find this young leopard in the same place she was, except for the fact that she was in the tree feeding on a duiker. And what we still have in the tree is the same duiker, looking a little bit less, a little bit low on the body weight situation, as it's still poised up in the tree. We're not in the best position right now to see it, because we've come in and she's on the ground, exactly where we should be parking to see the duiker in the tree, but she is awake, she's alert. She got up a few moments ago to see something in the bushes and then lay down again. So nothing too exciting, but it's a rather cool morning. And we had potential of some rain last night, but there was no rain. But temperatures are marvelous this morning and posing to be a beautiful, beautiful morning in the African savannah. Last night we had this female, as I said, up the tree. Scott found her yesterday morning. Or should I say, I found her with Herbie and Craig yesterday morning on foot, and Scotty D managed to follow her all the way to where we are now, and she found a duiker somehow in the long grass, managed to snatch it from a hyena, quickly pulled it up the tree, and then we spent the afternoon watching her feed. It was absolutely marvelous. She's a very relaxed young female. We don't know too much about her. We believe she spends a lot of her time in the west, but we'll be with her for a little while and see what it is she gets up to. But let's go to Brent and the bushwalk team and see what they're going to be up to this morning. Yes, she did the characteristic yawn, and then a second yawn, and then I counted to 5, ladies and gentlemen, and she stood up. She looks up at her sun-dried duiker, and she's now moved into the thicket. So I'm wondering if she's going to go up the tree. Stand by and watch with us, and let's see if she does show us how agile. Here we go. Ah, fantastic. Isn't that magical to watch a leopard go up a tree? Always find that really magical. Could you hear the claws on the tree there? Very strong, very powerful. Good morning, Nancy. You want to know if I know how old she is? Oh, look at that. I don't actually, Nancy. I think Brent might know. We were having a little chat about where she comes from last night, him and myself. Maybe those of you who are watching who know our leopards intimately will be able to tell me where or how old she is. I know she comes from the Ottawa area in the Sabi Sands, which is just north of the Singita property. From Ingrid Dam. She is the female, or the youngster of the Ingrid Dam female. That is as much as I got last night out of Brent, but I didn't actually ask him the age. So I wonder if those of you watching who've seen her before, I'm pretty sure some people will know exactly how old she is. And she is back to exactly the same behavior she was last night when we left. Thanks for waiting for us, young lady. Kendra is sending through the information that she's about 3.5 years. Thank you, Kendra. That is a marvelous age for a young leopard. She's going to come into breeding now, and it would be marvelous if she decides to stay here on the western side of Djuma. It definitely seems to be a bit of a spot available for a young female leopard in this area. With Tani doing a thing on what is our eastern side now, there's definitely a big gap here on the west. And this is an area Hukumuri likes to move through, so If she does stay, I'm sure he will come and find her. Chimboard would like to know what the most active early morning animals are, and that is a very good question. Essentially, what we would call now, this is the early morning, but you could also call it the dawn, and we could go and we could look at the dusk. So the dusk and the dawn, if you put those together, it's a term called crepuscular, and there are a lot of animals that are active sort of during the early hours and the late hours, so the dusk and the dawn time of the day. And honey badgers, leopards, lions, hyena, this is kind of the time of day when it's still cool enough for them to be moving around, but it really depends on what is going on out there. For example, this female was probably feeding for a good portion of the night, then she probably slept exactly where we found her for a very good portion of the night, and now, because she's got the meat up there, she has just been relaxing, and now it's time, obviously because the cameras are on her now, she's now gone up to give a little cameo performance. But multitudes of animals are active during the sort of cooler times of the day. This is when all the birds are waking up, although it is pretty quiet where we are now. This is the time of day when the dawn is starting and the day is coming into activity, and a lot of your nocturnal animals will be going to sleep, and a lot of your daytime animals will be sort of waking up. So it's kind of that like switch over between the night and the day. So anything could happen this time of day. It's hence why we do game drives at this time and in the afternoon. So I hope that kind of answers your question. How's your view there, Sans? You want me to go back a bit? Okay, we're just going to move back a couple of meters, see if we can get a little bit of a better look at her. We are in the sighting on our own. And while we do that, let's go and see what Brent is up to on his bushwalk. I'm sure he's super excited to be back on foot. Yes, indeed. Thanks, Brent. Nice to be talking about the knobthorn and the damage done. Talking about trees, we've got the marula tree that this young female is in. And the knobthorn and the marula are the two major trees that scientists are noticing that are disappearing due to elephant activity, because of their ever-ending, never-ending search for the most tender bark and cambium that these trees provide. And what we've seen out here is how important these trees are for the survival of so many species. I mean, not just the leopards. We get such picturesque sort of views of the leopards up the trees feeding on things, but aren't they just absolutely essential for the survival? I mean, how many other animals have we noticed are paying attention or moving around in relation to the marulas? We have the elephants completely at the will of the dropping fruits. We see them moving around from marula to marula. And without them, what will happen one day? So that is something scientists are paying attention to, the demise of marulas and knobthorns, two very, very important trees for this environment. Maureen wants to know if the cheetah and the leopard, the tail, have a similar purpose. Well, definitely for balance. The cheetah doesn't do too much climbing. The cheetah's tail works very, very well as a sort of rudder in the turning of the movement. When the cheetah's moving at an enormous amount of speed, that tail enables it to turn very sharply. And I'm sure that the leopard has that sort of ability as well. But what it's using its tail for is kind of a counterweight to balance it in the tree. So that is what, when you look at most animals that are tree dwelling, their tail works very, very well as a sort of counterbalance. Whereas the cheetah is not much of an arboreal sort of species. That tail works in the speed and pursuit of prey. And just that slight little movement of left to right enables the cheetah to counterbalance its movement at enormous speed. I've never seen a leopard at the kind of speeds that cheetahs move at. So it's hard for me to say if they use it as well in that sort of counterbalance when it comes to running. But definitely in the tree, you can see how the tail assists in that sort of, that balancing sort of act. She is absolutely loving her deka. Okay, let's quickly go over to Taylor, who's got one of those small and beautiful insects. Yes, she has managed to pull the deka back up, and she is now enjoying the very nice meat around the deka's neck and face. There you can see the head of the deka, as the rest of the body hangs on by a thread. I'm sure we're only moments away from most of it collapsing to the ground, but there are no hyena anywhere to be seen. I wonder how many of them came and visited this area last night. I have no doubt they would have come and seen if they could have grabbed a morsel or a bone or something that might have fallen, but it doesn't seem as if anything has fallen. She's made a marvelous job of completely devouring most of that duiker while keeping it intact. Wisteria would like to know if the cats sleep in the tree to make sure the kill doesn't get stolen, and that does often happen. We found her just on the floor, where you, if you were watching when we started, that's where she was. But she spent the whole of yesterday afternoon in the tree on a branch opposite from where the kill is. And it's not uncommon for leopards to sleep very close to their kill. But if a male leopard, for example, she is enjoying the face now. That is the eye she's about to lick off. Oh, let's have a listen, shall we? Let's see if we can hear the crunching of the face. Isn't that marvelous? Nothing goes to waste here, folks. She'll eat as much of that duiker as she possibly can. And the bones that do eventually fall on the floor probably fall prey or victim to the marauding hyenas that are for the never-ending quest for bone marrow and nutrients. So yes, Wisteria, they will sleep in the tree, and if a male leopard happened to come along, it would probably go straight up to the tree and steal that kill from her. She'd have no chance protecting it from another male leopard. A female leopard she might be able to ward off, but a male leopard should have no chance at all. So if not Osana, but possibly if Hukumuri decided to come into the scene, and there's not too much to be taken now, but if he came in while the kill was in the tree, no doubt he would have stolen it. Even Hasana seems to have done that. He's done that with Tundi before. Oh, she caught it. A marvelous catch. What a marvelous catch for a cat. Look at that. So it is getting to the end of the feeding potential of this duiker. It is soon going to be falling on the floor. Michelle, yes, the crunch is quite something. We were trying to listen last night, but the wind was just too strong. We could hear it from the vehicle, but we just weren't able to pick it up on the ambient for you. But last night she was really enjoying sort of the rib and leg areas of the duiker. Laura Moore comments that it's like cracking a crab. Indeed, a bit of lobster claw for dinner. There's some hyenas calling off to our left-hand side. They are rather far off, though. She's not bothered, though. She knows she's safe up there. Many, many years of evolution have made the leopard the king of the tree. And they know once they're in the tree, they really are completely safe from any other predators, barring a possible other leopard coming in. But we're going to stay with this female. Let's go back over to Brent on foot and let's see what he has. Let's see what updates he has for you. Yes, thanks, Taylor. Lion tracks, that would be marvelous. It's probably the Styx pride. If you're on Chitwa, I think Brent was talking about the fact that they were there sort of in the east yesterday morning. So it's most likely the Styx. We haven't seen them in ages. And yes, the Xidulu female is up the tree. Absolutely beautiful backdrop. I wonder if these cats realize what beautiful surroundings they find themselves in. And you can just see her. Isn't that a beautiful backdrop, folks? This is our morning. Beautiful Sunday morning it is as the sun starts to come up through the clouds in the east. Starting to warm the temperature just a little bit. Starting to backlight the beautiful leopard as Senzo slowly moves in to show you where she sits in this majestic and gloriously painted marula with the backdrop of that sky. Isn't that Fantastic. And there she is. You can see her Dacre leg hanging from below her belly, with her rudder-like tail balancing her nicely as she actually lies down this time, feeding on the remains, the last final snippets of the Dacre's neck. I'm sure it will be dropping to the ground soon as she slowly finds the last bits and pieces of its meat to be eaten. J-World wants to know if Dacres and Dik-Diks are the same size. Now, I'm going to have to look in my book, J-World, because I've never seen a Dik-Dik in my life. So I'm going to have a look at the size for you and then let you know. But the Dacre is the third smallest sort of antelope we find in this area. So, yeah, there we go. Nikki is saying Dik-Diks are very small, but you get a number of species. I know there's an entire book out there, a huge book just on Dik-Diks. But we don't get them here in South Africa, so I really don't know enough about them. But let me have a little look. Okay, so the Damara Dik-Dik, which you find in Namibia, has a weight of 5 kilograms, when the Steenbok is 11 kilograms, and Steenbok is almost the same size as a Dacre. So, yeah, a Dik-Dik is very, very, very small. Sharp's close book 7.5. That is the smallest antelope that we get here. The smallest in total is the blue Dacre, which is about 4 kilograms. And then the common Dacre, which is what is up the tree there, can get up to as much as 21 kilograms. Which is a fair amount of meat. You double that to get the pounds. It's about 40-odd pounds. Easy enough for a leopard to take up. It's about equivalently half her weight, or half a male's weight, but easy enough, seeing as they can hoist prey animals that are almost twice their body weight up a tree. Incredible that you're able to do that. Pound for pound, the strongest cat in the business, leopards. If you made a leopard the size of a lion, I reckon it would be an absolute beast. Hello, Maureen. Again, you want to know what body language leopards give when they want to be alone. Well, first of all, if a leopard does not want to be seen, it will just disappear. You won't even see the body language. The behavior that you might see if, for example, you are disturbing it, is it will might go flat in the grass, ears down on its head, and you might see a flick of the tail. That is a warning sign that is basically saying, do not come any closer. But generally, before that stage, the leopard slinks off if it doesn't want to be seen. They are masters of stealth and camouflage. And if leopard does not want to be seen, they just move off. The leopards of the Sabi Sands are absolute superstars. And they love performing in front of the camera. I haven't experienced any behavior like that from a Sabi Sands leopard because they are quite relaxed to the vehicle. They know that we are just taking photos and video, as this Xidulu female already enjoys the face of this Dacre. What have you spotted, young lady? Constantly alert, folks. Constantly alert. Even though she's got some food and got a relatively full belly, they are always prepared and alert for anything that might sneak up. Any small antelope or impala or something that might make itself available, they will constantly be prepared to catch and hoist. But we're thinking we're going to move out of this sighting shortly, and we had some tracks of a breeding herd of buffalo that crossed the road on our way in, but we wanted to come and see what, or if she was in this place still from last night. And what we do know with the buffalo coming in is we might get tracks or activity of lions following them in. Who knows, maybe Hasana has decided to follow them as well. But we had a breeding herd coming in from the north. We might go and follow up and see if we can find those buffalo. That would be a good addition to the morning. Dino Man has made a very good statement there about, like, how do leopard males know whether a cub is theirs or not? For example, Hukumuri knows that a cub is not his because he hasn't been here. So how does Tingana know if the cub is his or not? Well, it's a very good question, that. And the fact that leopards and lions both have what we call induced ovulation, that is the thing, that is the reality behind it, is that copulation is not guaranteed to provide offspring. So there's always that sort of unknown for a male. If he's sort of serviced that female and mated with her and she has a cub, he might think it's hers. So it actually adds to the survival potential of that cub. But if a male meets a female he's never encountered before, he knows for a fact it's not his. So it's very hard to actually know how they do know or don't know whether it's theirs or not. And that is the sort of the crux of the matter, and the reason why ovulation and reproduction in leopards and lions is so slow or so poor, to enable the males to sort of have like a guessing game. Is it mine? Is it not? So it's very hard to really know better. Do they know? Can they smell it? No. So it's difficult to really know how they do know or don't know. But if they've mated with a female, there's kind of that understanding that he potentially might be the father. As the sun clears the clouds in the background, illuminating a beautiful marula tree and a beautiful leopardess. So we're going to be moving out shortly to go follow up on some buffalo as the hyena calls in the distance. I wonder if they've spotted Brent on bushwalk. Let's go over to Brent and see what they are up to. Yeah, thanks very much, Taylor. I hope you managed to find those lions. I was about to leave, and Senza's like, but what happens if she comes down? Once she finishes eating that face, she's probably going to come down and move and maybe go and drink. So we reckon we might stay with her for a little while longer and see if that does actually happen. And it'd be marvelous to follow her and get some nice images of her in the long grass moving, as well as possibly drinking. We'd probably go all the way as far as Galago Pan, which is not too far from here, I don't think. I can show you on the map in a moment or two how far away it is exactly. But she is making short work of that Dacre's neck and face. Ali, I'll get back to your question now. We are just on Aubrey's Road over here, and Galago Pan is just in this sort of section over here. So it's not very far from where we are, I don't think. Am I right, Sens? It's about there. Okay, so if she drinks, she's probably going to go over there to drink. That is my assumption. And if I show you on the map here, this is where we had tracks of those buffalo coming in from sort of Galago's side, probably from the north, coming in towards this area. So they probably headed down towards Treehouse Dam. So when we do leave eventually, we'll probably see if we can follow up in that area. But Ali wants to know, would a leopard hoist a live animal in a tree? Normally, Ali, they kill the prey first, purely because the alarm call that an animal gives off when it is being murdered is enough to attract all sorts of other attention. So they will often suffocate either on the nose or on the neck to try and to prevent that noise from happening. They've done lots of studies to figure out why do animals make this dying, bleating call. And what they've realized is that call attracts absolutely everything. So from hyena to lion to leopard to even cheetah will move into an area where they hear that alarm call. Not that alarm call, that distress call. Because what they realized over many, many years is that the distress call didn't sort of frighten. So the impala gets pulled down by a leopard. The distress call actually attracts some of the impala to come and have a look what's going on. It doesn't force the leopard to let it go, because it's not like when you grab a frog or cricket, sometimes they make this explosive, scary sound, which forces you to like, whoa, what was that? It doesn't do that. But what it does do is it attracts attention from other predators, and they quickly come in, and that noise or that momentary lapse of concentration from the predator can sometimes allow that animal to run away. I've seen it many, many times where a lion or a leopard pulls something down, and as they pull it down, that sorry about that, man. She didn't get it. She didn't move towards that. But as they make that noise, something else comes in. The predator sort of moves away for a moment, and off it goes. So that is the purpose of that distress call, is to hopefully attract the attention of someone else who will sort of take the attention away of the killer in the moment. Let's go back to our face-eating leopard. We can hear her crunching away at the jawbone right now. Lorne, wow, there's an interesting topic flowing this morning. Lorne wants to know if leopards have been known to keep live prey hostage and eat it later. Lorne, I've never noticed leopards doing that. What I have seen with lion, leopard, and cheetah, not directly myself, but I have seen documentaries of it as well, is that quite often will catch something and not kill it. Generally a youngster, a baby animal, they'll catch it and then present it to their cubs and then allow the cubs to play with, catch, and eventually kill that animal. So the leopards don't do it for themselves to keep as a larder for later, live anyway. They do it to allow their youngsters to practice the killing stroke and the catching. So it is definitely something that needs to be learnt from the cat. They can catch, they're very good at catching, but the dispatching and the throat strangling is something that they need to practice. So quite often adults will provide their youngsters with an easy meal. What are you looking at, young lady? She has got a marvelous vantage point from up there. It's impossible for us to see what she's looking at. But isn't she beautiful? She's very focused on something, but nothing there. Back to her meal. She does have a very unusual spot pattern. Nikki's commenting in my ear. And James Richard commented last night that it's something that's within the family. On her right-hand side, she's got that row of 4 spots with a dot above, which appears to be quite sort of genetic with her family tree, which is quite an interesting thing to pay attention to. When you spend enough time with the leopards out here, it's awesome to see how they differ from each other. Yeah, she's really enjoying the face and the head right now. Nothing goes to waste, folks. The carnassial shear cutting through the sinew of the head. And it really appears as if this was a very old male duiker. When you look at those horns, if you go into those horn sense, you can see how the one is much shorter and stubbier than the other, which indicates probably a long territorial period of rubbing and scratching. I don't know what other reason there would be for one horn being a lot blunter than the other one. And how this duiker died, we still are very unsure. Very unsure. The vehicle is about to join us in the sighting. If you do hear that, I do apologize. But we're going to stay here, I think, a little bit longer, because I think she's nearly finished eating this head. And then from there on, who knows what she's going to do. But let's go over to Brent for an update. Thanks, Taylor. Sorry about your sad story about a dog. What animal that does really enjoy eating dogs is leopards, in fact. And in and around the sort of Highveld, Johannesburg, Pretoria area, we do have many, many leopards still living there. And they do make their living off of domestic animals, such as Jack Russells and small dogs. As sad as that might sound, a very adaptable cat is able to live in those environments quite close to humans and still survive, which to me is a marvelous feat. As the Xidulu continues to crunch at the bones, let's see if you can hear it. Quite interesting how she puts her tongue to the opposite side of her mouth as she's using the carnassial shear. On the other side, the tongue is actually completely on the opposite side of the mouth. Well, only moments ago, she was munching along and the head fell off, and she looked down very forlornly at the head as it careened down to the floor. The hyenas that were calling in the distance have yet to make any appearance. I reckon they know there's not much left over from a duiker. But I find it quite interesting. Can you go into her ear there, Sens, please? She's got an enormous amount of ticks on the side of her head and the back of her neck. Huge amount of ticks feasting on her. They don't seem to be causing too much harm to her. There's some really, really large, gorged females on the back of her neck who will shortly be falling off into the grass to provide Steph and the rest of the bushwalk people marvelous itchy legs in the weeks to come. Mia, you'd like to know if a lion would be able to take that kill from her. If Senzo can just pan out a bit and give you an idea of how high up in the tree she is. Have a look here. And panning right out. See how high up in the tree she is. It's going to go down to, we're not even at ground level there, so she's quite high. I wouldn't think a lion would be able to get all the way up there. It's possible it would be able to, but it really struggled getting down. It's quite high. She's about 25, probably 30 feet up in the tree. So lions can get up there, but they do struggle with the really high sort of elevations that the leopards get to. Private Cat Mama would like to know the advantages and disadvantages of solitary hunting. The advantages are that you get to eat the meat on your own. That is one. Disadvantages are that if you get injured, sick, unwell, whatever it might be, there's no one to assist. There's no sick days when you're a solitary animal. No sick days when you're a solitary animal. No way of calling in and saying, I'm sorry, folks, I'm not coming into work today. You have to continue as you are. So that is one of the biggest drawbacks of being a solitary hunter, is that there's no one to help. And their survival is completely dependent on their own wits and energy and fitness. And that's why lions that are fall prey or fall injured to buffalo or whatever it might be manage to survive and do very, very well, because their family does the hunting and they always are allowed a little bit of the meal. But if a leopard gets injured in any way, firstly, they will struggle to hunt, and secondly, they'll struggle to hoist anything up the trees. That's why if they ever are surprised on a kill on the ground, they always will move off. Initially, they might come back and secure that kill again, but initially they move off to prevent any injury or bite to the back leg or to any part that will prevent them from being able to hoist or to climb. A leopard that cannot climb is done for. They will not be able to escape from wild dogs or lions or hyena, which will at any given opportunity try and dispatch a leopard. If it cannot climb, they will always attempt to chase and catch them. The competition, the inter-specific competition between the species is immense out here. And the leopard's one saving grace is their ability to get up and high up into the canopy of a tree. Okay, so from our busy leopard, let's go over to Brent with something that's very busy on the ground. Thank you, Brent. How amazing for you to be on foot with a breeding herd of elephants. I'm sure he is super excited to be back in the Sabi Sands, to be able to be on foot with not only elephants, but whatever else might materialize, as we were lucky enough and fortunate enough to have this young female on foot yesterday, which definitely made my week and the beginning of a cat a day, which was marvelous. And she is slowly but constantly feeding, and it is nearly finished. Cecilia wants to know can you say that again about cleaning off the ticks, Nick? Sorry, cleaning off the ticks off itself, I wonder. Okay. Yeah, no, cats will not allow oxpeckers near them. Oxpeckers, it's a risk that they'll take. If you see how animals or cats respond to anything that comes nearby, they swat and grab and eat. So any oxpecker out there that lands on a lion or a leopard would end up being a leopard or lion meal. I've seen a lion sitting in the long grass, and a quail came nearby, and it swatted it and munched it there and then on the spot. So anything that lands on a leopard will probably be the last landing it ever does. And anyone that attempted to in the past that landed on a cat was not able to breed, and hence its lineage ended there and then. So impala are the smallest antelope I'm aware of that allow oxpeckers on. Charles wants to know, when leopards groom each other, do they eat the parasites? I'm not sure if they actually eat them, but they will grab them off with teeth. You don't often find leopards grooming each other. A cub will be groomed by its mother, but lions definitely groom each other. And whether they eat the tick or not, I'm unsure. I haven't actually seen them physically chewing them, but something you see monkeys and baboons doing. They pick the ticks off, and they do actually just pop them in their mouth like sweets. There's a little bit of a delicacy, their little blood fetish for the day. A bit of arachnid and blood at the same time. A marvelous little treat. And at the same time, dealing with the allo grooming, which is very part and parcel of the social behavior of those animals. And talking about baboons, it's very interesting how their grooming behavior can almost be related to or compared to that of a prison gang. And younger and smaller or weaker individuals will actually do favors for larger males within the troop so as to get their favor when times are tough or when they are being abused and beaten by a more sort of dominant male than themselves. They'll often call on the favors of those more dominant males that they've been sort of looking after in the past. So quite interesting if you do watch baboon behavior and try and compare it to that of a prison gang, and the favors that are sort of passed around from youngster to adult. But leopards will do most of the grooming for themselves. So those ticks on the back of her neck, she'll either scratch off or they will fall off and breed soon. Hello, Proud Cat Mama. Once again, you'd like to know what part of a kill has the most nutrients? Well, generally the internal organs, such as the liver and the kidneys. Those tend to have, or I think the liver on its own has generally got most of the iron and whatever it is that the leopard will benefit from most. But then also, when they're able to break open the bones and get the marrow is very, very nutritious and very, very good for the leopard. But then obviously all the meat is very, very tasty. And as we saw earlier, she really enjoyed the cheek. I've quite often seen cats feeding on cheeks of animals. I don't quite know why. What is there in the cheek that is so delicious and so tasty? It's very hard to say, really, but there's practically nothing left of this duiker. She's got one leg and a little bit of a hip joint, I think. I'm not actually sure anymore. It's hidden by the branch. The rest of it has fallen. Will she go down and reclaim what she's dropped? Those hyena that we're calling have not come anywhere near the scene. Hello, Gizmo. You'd like to know how long she's been eating for? Well, we left her this morning. Yesterday morning, we had her at about, let me just have a look at the time now. We had her at about 6:10 yesterday morning, and then Scott followed her from where we found her on foot, and probably about half an hour, 45 minutes after that, so about 7 o'clock or so yesterday morning. It is now 20 to 8 in South African time, so about an hour earlier yesterday is when she found this duiker, and then she took it up the tree. So she's been with it since about 7, maybe 7:30 yesterday morning, so about 24 hours she's been with this carcass. And this is the second time we've been with her, and she's been feeding, since we've been with her this morning, she's practically been feeding for about an hour already. And yesterday we were with her before we left safari last night. She was feeding also for about 45 minutes to an hour. And during the night we have no idea how much time she spent on the kill itself. But she has not stopped for about an hour. She's been munching away, crunching the bones, enjoying her breakfast, a very hearty meal indeed. Okay, so we're going to stay here.